Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Hardly.
Come on, Brent.
Line's good.
Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Ooh, welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham. Scott alongside, as always. Hello, Scott.
Sean, I have nothing to say. I started that sentence before I trusted that I could, come up with something by the end of it, like Michael Scott, but unfortunately I didn't.
Hey, it happens sometimes. So let's start the show with an omission from the last show. A horrific omission, Scott.
Tell me.
The World Wheelchair Curling Championship did take place this past weekend. We did not comment on it on the episode back on Tuesday. So congratulations to Latvia on the mixed double side and China on the 4-person side on their World Championship victories. Canada did quite well in both, undefeated through the round robin on the mixed double side. And then the playoffs happened. We don't need to talk about what happened in the playoffs, but it's a really good week for them through the round robin, and a silver medal for Canada on the 4-person side. So congratulations to the Canadians on 2 good weeks. The Chinese side, Scott, I said on one of our bold predictions that China would win a world championship this calendar year, or a major championship this calendar year. They've won 2 now between the men's World Juniors and now the wheelchair. I did say that the wheelchair was probably their best chance because that team is dominant, really that Chinese wheelchair team. And they continued that run of dominance there this week. So bold prediction coming true. And I will say that I know it was because of the pandemic and Olympics and things getting shifted around. I liked when the World Wheelchair Championship was more of a standalone. And when it's going against the Briar, at least for us in this country, it's hard to kind of focus and focus on as much as I would like to on it. I don't have enough bandwidth to keep track of it all. When it was in the fall last year, it was great. There was nothing else major going on, and it really could take center stage. So I kind of want to go back to maybe not the fall, but just not against the Briar.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the World Curling Federation has only so many weeks to program all their events. It is too bad. Part of the good news is that they gave updates on the Briar broadcast, so maybe some people that wouldn't have known about it otherwise were at least able to get updates, which is good. And that's a bad job by us last week. I had the tab open on my computer. It's actually still open right now. I just left it open. So bad job by us, but good catch, Sean.
And with that, we will turn our attention to the Women's World Curling Championship, scheduled to kick off on Saturday over in Sweden. This is going to be the first Women's World Curling Championship in Europe since 2019. Am I right on that?
I believe that you're right on that. Yeah, okay. Which was in, I want to say, Denmark.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong.
We'll have to fact check that one, but
I'll fact check on the fly.
Yeah, so it'll be our first time for the women back there since pre-pandemic. There are 13 teams in the field. We're going to have a round robin top 6 into the playoffs. The top 2 get byes to the semifinals. The other 4 play off in quarterfinals, which aren't really quarterfinals because there's only 2 of them. They're like semifinals. If you want to get really pedantic about it. 2 winners obviously into the gold medal game, 2 losers of those semifinals into the bronze medal game. Scott, we do this for the Briar and the Scotties. I would like to introduce it to our World Championship previews this year. There are 13 teams in the field. How many can win?
1, 2.
Oh, you've already gone too many. So sorry. The answer is 1. History has proven this. Silvana Tirinzoni. That the list is 1.
Oh, Sean, now who's the one that's throwing shade at Madeleine DuPont now? Geez, I get all the crap for it, but you heard it here first. Sean's counting them out.
Okay, so no, but in all seriousness, how many do you think can win?
3.
Switzerland, Sweden, Canada?
Yeah.
Okay. So your list is 3.
Throw DuPont in there as the 4th if you want, because she just won the Euros.
I wasn't necessarily even thinking DuPont. I'm going to give you hell for it, but I was even thinking Fujisawa. She's won a Grand Slam, won the Pan-Continental. Einarson was in that field, so that's certainly possible for her to win.
I think we're talking a top 3 tier, and then another tier just slightly below. That's like probably Fujisawa, DuPont, and maybe the US with Tabitha Peterson.
Constantini too. They're close. They're ascending.
They're ascending, but I wouldn't put them in that group just yet.
Well, Scott, what we can do here is we'll go through the field, all 13 teams. I have organized them with my Sean's power rankings.
Ooh, I like this. I like this power rankings. Will you give us your metric?
Who I think has the best chance to win?
Okay,
I guess.
There you go.
Just based purely on that. It's a totally subjective metric.
Good. I like that.
All right, so let's start with the aforementioned Switzerland. There at the top of my rankings. Silvana Tirinzoni has won the past 3 Women's World Curling Championships, which takes us back to 2019, because of course there was no championship in 2020. Last year they went 14-0 in the Worlds, 12-0 in the round robin, obviously, and then won their 2 playoff games. Change in lineup, of course. The front end is now different. Carol Howald and Breyer Schwaller Hurleman are the front end, so they are not part of this run. They were both seeking their first world championships on the season, 62-18. Just give me a break on that. Here's what I thought was a really interesting stat, though, Scott. Without the hammer this year, they have scored 149 points in 300 ends. Without the hammer, they've scored 149 points in 300.
Almost a half a point an end without the hammer.
Without the hammer, yeah. They've given up, as you would expect, more points, 263 points against per end. That is less than 1 per end. And if you net that out, they're giving up half a point per end on average when they do not have the hammer. That is incredibly good, I think. Very efficient. They are scoring 1.24 when they do have the hammer. So a 0.75 difference in their point scoring. That is really big. In 300 ends, again, without the hammer, they've only given up 39 multiples. This team's really, really good.
Yeah.
Silvana Tirinzoni is a little fiery. Elena Pats is, I know we say this a lot. She just looks over and is like, what are you worried about? I'm Elena F. Pats. Going for 4 in a row. It's obviously not going to be easy, but it's hard to, we said this with Kerri Einarson too. It's hard to say that they're not the favorite.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, right? 3 in a row. Nobody else has won a world championship during that quad. They're the ones to beat. And so, yeah, it'd be kind of silly to pick against them until they lose.
Yeah.
Different front end, as you mentioned. Maybe that's something, but they haven't missed a beat all year. No, it's possible for them to lose for sure, but they got to be the number 1 team with a bullet. I think your power rankings are spot on so far.
All right, well then let's see if they continue with my number 2 ranked team. That's going to be Sweden. I'm putting Anna Hasselborg in this spot. They go 9-3 last year, 4th place finish, lost the bronze medal game to Kerri Einarson. Anna Hasselborg is pregnant, as is Agnes Knockenhauer. They are both expecting in the summer. They are both going to play. So congratulations to the 2 of them, expecting new additions to their respective families in the summertime. 39-19 on the season. They shockingly missed the playoffs at the European Championships. They have done no better than a quarterfinal at any of the slams this season. In the World Playdown, which is different from the Swedish National Championship, Isabella Arana took them to 7 games in a best-of-7 series. They, of course, won in that 7th game, and they're giving up 6.05 points per game, which is higher than normal for them. So they're going to have to tighten up their defensive play in order to be there at the end of the week. They can't be as loose as they have been this season on giving up those multiple and big ends. That's really what the departure has been this season from what we've seen in previous years.
I think so, yeah. And they're maybe a little complacent in a year coming off an Olympics. So sure, this is the time for them to maybe take their foot off the gas a little bit, take care of their families and focus on that. That said, Sean, they're still the number 1 ranked team in the world. They're pretty effing good. And if you want to call them 1A or 1B to Switzerland's 1A, you're not going to hear any argument from me. But I don't know what else to say. That Sweden are good.
Yeah.
Switzerland are good.
Yeah.
When they play each other, it's must see TV.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wish I could take my foot off the gas and still be the best in the world at something, or the top ranked in the world at something. That'd be good.
Right.
But instead, we press on to perhaps where you might start to disagree with my rankings here, Scott. I have Japan here in the 3rd spot on my power rankings with Satsuki Fujisawa. They are 47-18 on the season. They are scoring 8.9 points per game, giving up 5.8. So just better than a 3-point differential on average in their games. They, of course, did not play in the World Championship last year. So this is their first time back since the bubble. If you look at that without hammer stat, theirs is not quite as good as Switzerland, but without the hammer, they have scored 153 points, only given up 235 points. So they're getting steals, which indicates some level of being aggressive, but not giving up big ends. So the net of that is very, very good. Their point against without the hammer is only 0.58. So just a little worse than what we've seen with Tirinzoni. But that is a very good number. They have won this season the Pan-Continental Championship and the Canadian Open. And at the Pan-Continental, they beat Kerri Einarson twice in that event. That's why I have them ranked ahead of Kerri Einarson here. Now, you could look back earlier in the season and say, hey, Sean, they've played each other more than twice this season. And I would say, close that window on your browser. Let's just talk about the two at the Pan-Continental Championship. But that's why I have them ahead, only for that reason. They're really good. We've seen them go on runs. In all reality, you play this event 100 times. Kerri Einarson probably should be ahead of them on a power ranking. But I do just want to highlight that they can win. They are very capable of winning a world championship, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I think they definitely can. I am going to fact check you here, Sean, because Einarson actually beat Fujisawa in draw 8.
Okay,
my
apologies.
9-3. Fujisawa did win in the playoff round.
Okay.
So you have it there, 1-6-5 in that game. So 1-1. Looking at her line scores this year, a lot of close games. Even the losses were close. So this is a team that's going to keep it in the game. I think that you're not wrong to put them 3rd. They can win. I would suggest that Kerri Einarson is probably more likely to win than Fujisawa.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my feeling.
Sure.
On it, but I understand why you've put them here. They're quite good. So yeah, I'm looking at Ken Palm's rankings. Fujisawa number 4 in the world behind Einarson, Tirinzoni, and Homan, with Anna Hasselborg just behind. So this is the right ballpark.
Well, then next, perhaps no surprise, I, of course, do have Madalena Dupont. No, of course, it is Kerri Einarson in the 4 spot for me. She went 9-3 last year, en route to a bronze medal, 45-14 on the season. Of course, just saw her at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. Their only loss was in the Friday Fun Fest, where they decided, hey, winning the Scotties isn't hard enough. Let's go the long way through the Page playoff. That's the only possible explanation for what happened there. That was their only loss. Bronze at the Pan-Continental Championship, having lost the semifinal to Fujisawa to put them in that bronze medal game. I believe they beat the United States and Tabitha Peterson in that bronze medal game. They have won the Masters this season and were a finalist at the National and the Tour Challenge. They've had a really good slam record. Scott, we said it before, the Scotties, they're very, very good. The real question this week, as opposed to the Scotties, is can they now get that, I'll say, elusive world championship? But when you look at the context of what has happened to them, didn't have the chance in 2020. 2021 was so weird in the bubble, and they had been there for so long. And so who knows? And then last year was still kind of up in the air, not real prep time. The Scotty was kind of strange still. Did get a bronze medal there. This is kind of their first, like, quote unquote, real or normal world championship. So we'll see if they can get that jump and get to the top of the podium for the first time.
Yeah, and getting the chance to go, out of Canada to play it. There's something about being the home team, but also a bit of pressure that comes with that. So being able to go over to Sweden, not have to deal with as much media as there would be at home, it might be good. Looking at their record this year, you talked about all of that. What I'll point out is that against teams that are outside of the top 10 in Ken Pomp's rankings anyway, they've lost one game all season to teams ranked 11 and higher, and lower. So where it's going to be is those games against Fujisawa and Tirinzoni and Hasselborg. It's against that group that is going to be tough. Tabitha Peterson, maybe, Madalena Dupont, maybe, but they can win this, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't know if it's critical, but perhaps it'd be very beneficial for them to finish first or second, get that bye right into a semifinal.
I think
maybe
it would help
more
a lot,
so than some of the other teams, perhaps, that than a team like Hasselborg or Tirinzoni, who have, like, you just wonder about how hard it is to get out of Canada. They all talk about that, and now to have done it for the fourth straight time, one of those opportunities for Worlds was taken away through no faults of your own, obviously, but you wonder how internally you're like, oh wow, like how often are we going to get this chance? Do you put some more pressure on yourself? So if you can get into that 1-2 spot, get that bye to a semi, I think that'll do them a world of good.
Yeah, they've got a tough schedule at the gate, playing Hasselborg first, and then the US the next day, the US and Norway on Sunday, and then Monday it's Italy and Scotland. So bit of a gauntlet to get through first, but if they're able to come through that, and they'll be well positioned by the end of the week to get one of those 2 byes.
All right, well, let's move on then to who I have in the 5th spot of my power rankings. This might surprise you a little bit. I'm going with Korea and the team of Sungyun Ha, Hyun Kim, Tai Yang, and Sujin Kim. And the reason, Scott, that I have them in this 5th spot, they did win the silver medal at the Pan-Continental Championship. They also just won the silver at the World Universiade Games that were held in Lake Placid. They are 52-26 on the season. They are scoring a lot of points. They score 9 points a game. But ultimately, the reason I have them as high as I do is that it's really hard to get out of Korea on the women's side. And just to get through that, you have to be really good. The field might not be as deep as Canada, but it's to the point where if you are Team Korea, if you win that event in the summer and get to be Team Korea for the rest of the year, almost by definition, you're really good.
Yeah, and you're playing a lot of really good teams. They traveled a lot, played a lot. I'll caution by saying they're 5-15 against teams in the top 25.
They're very young.
That comes by being a young team that just plays a lot of games against those teams, which is good, right? You want to be playing those games in the first place. So if you're playing 20 of them, you're doing well by getting into the big events against some of those top rated teams. So I'm a little surprised you would put them ahead of Denmark. Sean, clearly you hate Madalena Dupont, and that's fine. All
right. Well, let's move on to the next team. I'm going with the USA. Tabitha Peterson in this spot, 39-19 on the season. They have a semifinal finish at the Masters this year. They went undefeated at the USA Curling Championship. They are 0.47 points against without the hammer. So again, that number is even better than what Silvana Tirinzoni was doing. So that's a number that I think I'm going to just keep an eye on now moving forward. I'm very interested by it. So very efficient there on the season. But one of the reasons I have them as high, part of this might be just a bias towards what I've seen and who I've seen more of. I watched a lot of those USA Curling Championships because they were on YouTube. Who knew that just having it readily available on YouTube was easier to find than perhaps elsewhere. But Tabitha Peterson was so good at that event, and they all as a team collectively were very good, that it's, maybe recency bias again. Maybe it's just because I've seen so many of those games, or I saw so many of those games, but man, they were good that week. And I hope for them that it carries over.
Yeah, this is definitely the team I would put here next. Strong year, as you've said. Not so great against teams in the top 25, under 500, but they're capable of beating anyone. And like you say, without the hammer, they can be very, very dangerous. So this is a team that I expect to be in the playoffs at the end of the week.
All right, well, let's move on to another team that we always expect to be in the playoffs, Scott. Yes, the time has finally come. Denmark, Madeleine Dupont. They went 7-5 last year to capture the final playoff spot. They finished in 6th place last year, but this fall, everything came together. The planets aligned. The stars shone, and Madeleine Dupont was your European curling champion. We don't have to talk about what's happened since for her this season because she won the Euros, damn it. And Scott, playoffs last year, Euro champion. I mean, the field still is what the field is, with Russia not being allowed to participate, with China having not sent a team to the Pan-Continental and therefore not a Chinese team here. Those are two teams that regularly compete at a very high level who aren't here. So that changes just the dynamic a little bit. But acknowledging that is the reality, her making the playoffs was a lot of fun. Her winning the Euros was fun. She can make the playoffs again in this field.
Yeah. I'm going to back off of my, she can't, given that they did. They won the Euros. That's pretty crazy that they won the Euros, to be honest.
It is.
But they did that. That is a thing that they did. That is real, that we all experienced. And so am I reverse jinxing her by saying she can do it? Maybe. But they can definitely make the playoffs. I think they're like the widest variance, right? They could win it, and they could finish in 10th place. Neither thing would be a shock.
But they have been ascendant in the past few years.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it'd be a little surprising if they finished down the track that far in 10th.
I mean, a little surprising, but I wouldn't be shocked by it, right? Right.
Well, of course you wouldn't, because you don't think they're any good. So
no, exactly. So that tracks.
All right. Well, let's move on to the team that is going to be the host squad at the upcoming Olympic Games in 2026. That is Italy. Stefania Constantini, 4-8 last year. Full lineup is back. They have not made a change, which does lead me to suggest that this is the lineup that they want to take with them into those Olympic Games, because that would have been a time to make a change. They went 4th at the European Championship this year, 43-32 on the season. They got a quarterfinal appearance at the event in Perth in Scotland. They have missed the playoffs in every other major event that they have played in so far this season. Only a 0.39 hammer efficiency, and slightly concerning too, in the 75 games, they've given up 20 steals of 2 or more. That seems like a lot in that number of games. So they're going to have to tighten it up a little bit for sure here. But again, this is a team that's, and I think a program that, yeah, they'd like to win this world championship, but these type of events right now are in service of building to 2026.
Absolutely. That's what they're building towards. No doubt about it. How did they do at the Euros, Sean?
4th.
That's pretty good. And I think that's what they'll want, is to like maintain playoffs at the Worlds, right? Not have a setback in this sort of developmental curve. So that's the goal. Will they be able to get there? I wouldn't put them as a favorite for that, but they'll be in the mix for that 5th and 6th playoff spots.
All right, let's move on to another team that would like to be in the mix for those playoff spots. I'm going to put Germany here. Danielle Liensch and her team, they finished 5-7 last year outside of the playoffs. They are 44-32 on the season. They did miss the playoffs at the European Championship, going 5-4 over the week there. They have played in a couple of slams so far this season, 1-7 in those slam appearances. Overall, they are giving up 6.9 points per game. That's a lot of points to give up per game for a team that is this good and competing at this level. But at the same time, their force rate is 0.51 and their steal rate is 0.3. So that combines to not terrible. But when you look at their overall points against, it suggests that they're letting a lot of rocks in play. They're playing very aggressively, and it's paying off for them in a bunch of ends. But in the totality of it, it has not worked out well more often than not at the highest level or against the highest competition so far this season.
That's where putting rocks in play can come back and bite you. It's this classic sort of fight and strategy about when we're playing a team that we know is better than us, do we keep it open, try to keep the score low, and give ourselves a chance at the end? Or do we just put a bunch of rocks in play, try our best to make it hard for the other team to score with the hammer, just junk it up, right? It seems like that's the approach that they've taken this year, this German team. And you're right. When another team is technically better and can out-execute, it leads to bad results. So there'll be those games against the top four or five teams that will sort of dictate how this week is going to go for them.
Now, another team that is going to be looking at how they compete against those top teams, that is Scotland and Rebecca Morrison. This lineup includes Gina Aitken, Sophie Sinclair, and Sophie Jackson. They went 0-4 last year at the World Championship, 0-12. Better this year, obviously, because they've won some games. So they're 42-24 on the season. That's a nice little palindrome right there, Scott. They did win an event in Alberta in October. They got a bronze at the European Championship, and then obviously have come through Scotland, which is very competitive, to get that spot. The Professor of Peel is very, very high on Rebecca Morrison, and would probably say that I have her too low here in these rankings. But given what happened last year, if they can come out and go 5-7, 6-6, that's a marked improvement for them. And if they make the playoffs, even better. And it's just really a question of how much did the experience last year serve them to set up for this season, and how are they going to do at their second appearance at a Worlds?
Yeah, I think that's what they want to build on is that success at the Euros. So rather than risk taking a step back, this team outperformed all the other Scottish teams this year at the Scottish Championships and earned their right to be here. But I don't know, right? Against the tough competition, they have not shown this year that they're ready for that jump. Sure. So they'll want to be making the playoffs. I think that's a realistic goal, to sort of climb ahead of Constantini, DuPont, maybe Korea for that last playoff spot. But I'm going to have to see it before I predict that.
I think another team that's in a similar boat, that's Norway. Kristen Skaslian, Marianne Rorvik is throwing the 4 stones for them. 5-7 last year outside of the playoffs, 4-5 at the European Championship to miss the playoffs. They did, though, Scott, last month win the Sun City Cup that was played there in Europe beat Hasselborg in that event, a field that also included Dilsit Yildiz and Danielle Jentsch, excuse me. So that was a pretty good field there at the Sun Cup, and they come out on top. So this is kind of like some of these teams that we talked about, the Scotties and the Briar, that the top teams can't sleepwalk through and expect to win, but the top teams on average should come out and win, right? Like Kristen Skaslin is a very good player. She can compete at this level, but if she can, she's going to really have to scrape and claw for everything. And maybe there's a path into the playoffs for her, but it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a difficult climb. As you mentioned, played some of these teams that are in the field. Mixed results. Did beat Anna Hasselborg once, but yeah, it's going to be hard work for them to qualify for the playoffs here, and their goal should be to stay, I think, in the 8 pool, keep Norway up.
Another team that's going to be looking to do that's Turkey. Dilsit Yildiz, she went 2-10 last season, 5-4 at the European Championship, though. That's a very strong performance then at the Euros. Also won the Latvia Challenge events and went 2-2 at that Sun City Cup, excuse me. That's Kristen Skaslin won. The issue that we have seen with Turkey at this event is not anything to do with the fourth thrower. It is the position that the fourth thrower is left in when it's time for her to throw. So it's really going to have to be improvements in those front three to ensure that Dilsat has more makeable shots, frankly, because we've seen it at the mixed doubles level that she can play. And I mean, yes, obviously everybody can improve a little bit, but she is just, and last year was just faced with so many tough shots. So I think part of that could be strategy, simplifying things a little bit. Part of it is going to be execution for the front three players. But again, this is a team that you can't sleepwalk through a game against Turkey.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have a lot of success against teams in this field or teams in the top 10 this year. Do have some wins against them, a couple against Danielle Jentsch. But you're right. What's going to be important for them is making sure that Dilsat has makeable shots at the end of the end, and that they're in a position where they can either score or limit the opponent's scoring. Their 4-5 record at the Euros was great and got them into this World Championship field. So they're capable, but that should be their goal, is to build on this, get the experience playing against these top teams, and stay up in this A pool.
And finally, rounding out the field, it is New Zealand. Jessica Smith is skipping this side that went 4-4 at the Pan-Continental Curling Championships to get this spot. First time, I believe, for New Zealand in the field. Holly Thompson, Bridget Becker, Natalie Thurlow round out this team. Really cool story, too, about Jessica Smith. Scott, back in 2020, she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. She is thankfully now in full remission from that. So that's great to see. She had qualified for the World Mixed Doubles event in 2020, which of course did not happen. And then she could not play in 2021 as she was undergoing cancer treatment. So hopefully she can qualify out of New Zealand again, get into that spot, get back to that, or get to that event. But this is a wonderful story for them. And I hope they have a really good time. I hope they learn a lot, and I hope they win a game, maybe two, but it's going to be very, very difficult for them.
Yeah, it'll be tough for sure. I agree. I think their best shot is to go out and sort of just play no fear. And by doing that, putting it all on the line, just like embracing the experience, they'll be able to have a good time and soak in the experience, because it is like really cool, right? You're at a world championship for a sport that you presumably love. So take the opportunity to really feel that and soak it in.
Absolutely. So there you have it. The 13 teams that are in the field at the 2023 Women's World Curling Championship. As always, Scott, It's time to do the most foolish thing we do. Or at least, I guess, at least recently, the most foolish thing I do. You're on a roll. But
right.
you can't, well, I guess you can just pick the defending champion. I guess you could just keep doing that if you want. But who are your 4 playoff teams? I know there's 6 playoff teams in the field, but we'll go with 4. And who's your winner?
So I'll pick 4. I'll pick Switzerland, Canada, Japan, and USA. I'll leave Hasselborg out of that, which might be the stupidest thing I've done all year. And I'll just take the defending champions. Give me Switzerland.
All right.
They'll win until they don't.
That's true. That's very true. They will win until they don't. So I'm going to go with Japan, Canada, Switzerland as well. I'm going to put Anna Hasselborg in there. And because it was one of my bold predictions in January, I'm going to go with Anna Hasselborg to win the 2023 Women's World Curling Championship. So this should be a very fun week. As always, for us here in Canada, TSN has all of the Team Canada draws. I believe the times are something like 4 a.m., 9 a.m., 2 p.m. Eastern time on the difference between us and Sweden. So a little worse if you're on the West Coast, maybe.
So it's 5 hours right now because they have not adopted daylight saving time in Europe yet. So
okay, so 4 a.m. would be right.
5 hours difference.
Yeah. So 4 a.m., 9 a.m., 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Yeah, that's right.
And elsewhere in the world, wherever you are, there's whatever the local circumstances are. Obviously, Japan has its deal. There's the stuff in the UK. I don't know what's going on in the US with this one. If Olympic Channel or someone involved with NBC Universal will show it. And I'm fairly confident that it's going to be on recast. If it's for things that aren't on TV in your region, I think it is going to have to be recast for your viewing. I was going to say pleasure, but I don't know if you can say viewing pleasure when talking about recast.
Yeah.
It's, to view it.
Yeah.
That's how you view it. Yeah.
View it. I will be taking advantage of a VPN to be able to watch, Sean, as I will be out of the country.
Yes, you will. So there you go. And anyone else who is traveling potentially to the Women's Worlds, safe travels. Enjoy yourselves. We will be back to chat all about it. So if you have not yet, please do subscribe wherever you get the shows. Do likes, comments, ratings, all that good stuff. Helps other people find the show, keeps us growing. Head on over to GameOfThronesPod.com. All past episodes are there under the episodes tab. Check out the new merch store. Lots of great stuff out there. And you can follow along with social media at Game of Stones Pod, Twitter and Instagram. Game of Stones Podcast on Facebook. And if you want to let us know what you want to hear on the show, Game of Stones Podcast at gmail.com. Scott, we're still going to give away the Elsa Craig print. Mm-hmm. That's going to go until Monday, the 20th, when Canada plays Scotland. So check out the social media feeds for entering that, which we're very excited about.
Yep. Please do. It's over on Instagram. And we'll be doing it right after the Scotland-Canada game, as you said. I thought that was pretty apt as a time to be giving away that print of Elsa Craig.
And the only other thing I could think of, Scott, is that the U-Sport National Championship kicks off this week. Always a fun time there. What is your best memory of curling while you were a university student?
Sean, I'd say my best memory, I was playing in the BC junior. I don't think it was provincials, but the coastal playdowns. And my friend Tim, we invited him to be the 5th on our team because he didn't have anything else to do and he had never curled before. His preparation involved procuring a big brown paper bag full of snacks that he labeled on the outside his bag o' food.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all set to go. And then the ice plant in Chilliwack went down. They had to cancel there. We had to go to Tsawwassen instead to play. And there wasn't enough room in the car to bring Tim. And he just sat at home in our dorm playing video games and eating his bag of food that whole weekend. So That was my favorite memory of. I don't remember how we did. I don't think it was well.
But you remember the Bago food,
of course. Yeah, those are the memories that we have along the way.
There you go.
Who cares about the outcome, right?
Yeah. Well, hopefully some of the U Sport folks playing this week have slightly better memories than a Bago food, and they remember. At least one of the teams will remember what happens on the ice.
Yes, one of the teams will.
Yeah, so good luck to all the competitors there. We will update once that event is fully ongoing, and then we have some champions. But always good to see things going on at the U Sport college level, and the future of the sport is there. So very much looking forward to seeing what the results are there. And we will talk about it when we talk to you all again next week. So enjoy the curling, everybody. Stay safe out there. We'll talk to you again next week. But until then, keep those brooms on the ice and don't dump that insert.
Make the final.